When you think of Muhammad, do you think of the kind, gentle Buddha? Do you think of a man that could do nothing wrong? A man that was forgiving and kind and merciful and all that? This is basically the cultural Muslim Muhammad. Well, we have a video here by Aisha Rosalie, a Muslim convert with close to 666,000 subs. She made a video on what is a high value man, which of course she's talking about Muhammad. Aisha's portrayal of Muhammad as some saint-like figure that let everything go, that didn't harm anyone, that's not what we read in the Hadith. In fact, some of the examples she gave are so hilariously wrong. It's like this video just had to be made. So I'm going to go through this video. We're going to see just how wrong she got it. According to the Islamic sources themselves, according to Sunni Hadith, the same Sunni Hadith that she's using to build up this gentle giant personality is the same exact sources that show Muhammad as a very different, cruel, maybe barbaric even man, a man that did a lot of really terrible things. Yet, this is not what she was trying to demonstrate. So let's get the record straight. Let's make it clear that just because Hitler loved puppies doesn't make him a good man, and just because Muhammad did a few nice things doesn't make him a great man either. You've got to look at the entire personality of you have to look at the entire picture. You have to look at both the good and bad in order to judge someone. Otherwise, you get a wrong idea. All right, let's take a look. Let's get into it.
Sorry, I'm getting emotional because it's just his character is just so impeccable, and it's nothing like anyone who lives today or anything we've been told about how a good person is.
That's exactly right. He's not what we're told about what a good person is, and what we've been told about him, and what she's going to get into, is not true. It's actually funny. Right off the bat, she's describing that Muhammad isn't like what a good man is supposed to be. What she means is something else. She's trying to say that actually he's a definition of a good man, but ironically, she's actually right that he's not what you would call a good man.
What is a high value man? This is not just me trying to sound cool and down with the kids by using these new terms that have come across on the internet recently. I mean, I'm actually 26, so I'm not that old, but this video is not going to be about opinions. This video is about facts.
Before I get any further, so let's talk about what she's trying to do here. What she's trying to do, she's using this term high value man, which she clearly doesn't know what it means. It's like an alpha term for like high value man, someone that like makes a lot of money and has a lot of hoes or whatever, right? This is, typically what's referred to as high value man, someone with a lot of money or whatever, right? She's taking this term, which she clearly doesn't understand what it means. She Googled it or whatever, this new term, and she's using it in a way that doesn't make any sense. So as we watch the video, you're going to see she's going to try to bring Muhammad back to a definition of high value man. But like the label doesn't even make sense. What she's describing doesn't match what the label is. Neither does it make sense to apply it to Muhammad. But anyways, let's just take a look and see.
This video is about the greatest man in history. You can Google it. You'll get the same result. The greatest man in history.
Ah, good old Google. Because of course, when you Google stuff, that actually tells you what is the truth, right? Like, it has to be, right? If it's on Google, then it must be true. Let's Google it. Oh, well, would you look at that? The first result, Time Magazine, actually put Jesus at the top of the list. And other articles say differently. And then other articles give different results. Local Buzz puts Mahatma Gandhi. And then, of course, Michael Hart in his book, he put Muhammad as the greatest man, meaning the one that had the most influence. So this is kind of like a funny point, using Google to try to defend your prophet. But anyways, that's okay.
And about what made him such an incredible man. I wanted to make this video for a while, but I've been feeling on edge about it because I know how divisive this kind of content can be. And that's why I'm not here to give my opinion and to cause division and fitna. But I'm here to actually talk about something of value, inshallah. And this...
That was just like... That was like a non-comment. I don't know what she's trying to say. What's so divisive about saying Muhammad is a high-value man? I mean, Muslims will eat this stuff up. I don't know what she's talking about. She's trying to appear to be over dramatic or over controversial. There's nothing controversial about what she's saying to Muslims, and her content is for Muslims, so I don't know why she's saying that.
This video is so important, and I really have been wanting to make this for a long time because there's so much misinformation out there on what our religion is, on what our religion stands for. And it's really hurtful, I think, for all Muslims to see people, you know, mocking our religion or using our religion to gain in negative ways. And this is not to comment on anybody's work specifically, because there are a lot of people out there doing incredible work. It's really important that when we look at the greatest man in history, we look at it from authentic sources. I've got a text that I've been studying in my scholarship for our Sirah class, and it's Al-Muqtasar, so it's a summarized version. It's called Al-Muqtasar Al-Kabir fi Sirah Rasul, so it's like a very summarized version of the Sirah of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu.
I'm going to apologize in advance because unfortunately in this book, maybe in an effort to seem like she knows Arabic or something, she decides to put the Arabic text and then translate it on the fly. I mean, she should have just use an English version. I mean, that would have been better, but then she can't show off her Arabic skills, right? So let's watch her translate.
And when I was studying this text, there was a chapter on akhlaq, on character. I was completely blown away when I heard things about our Prophet that I had never heard before, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This text is incredible, and what I'm going to share with you, I guarantee you're going to learn new things about our Prophet, peace be upon him, that you never knew. And there are many things in this text that is worth talking about, but I've highlighted only a couple because time's sake. I don't want this video to be long. Our attention spans are dying. I just really want to get the point across, and this is what our Prophet was like, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you're going to be of high value, this is the character that you need to emulate. This video is not just for men. This is for women as well, because when I read this, I want to be like this person as well. This is for everybody, on how we can be an incredible version of ourselves. I should have called this high value human, because it's not specifically about men, it's just about being a high value human. Okay.
So we'll get started. The first way to be a high value man is to get your teenage, actually not even teenage, your pre-teen wife to scrape the semen off your clothes. That's the first way to get started with being a high value man. Like get her to like, yeah, okay. Let's see what else she has to show us.
So I have highlighted a few sentences, as you can see, starting with وَكَانَ أَحْلَمُ النَّاسِ, translating to he was the most gentle of people. Even that first sentence right there goes completely against what we're being told right now in the modern world on what it means to be a man.
Okay, so she's saying he was the most gentle of people. The problem is, what we find about Islam is it's the exact opposite of what you would call gentle. It has the most harsh, legalistic system out there. We're talking chopping off hands. We're talking stoning adulterers. We're talking like an extreme system, a system that puts women and men in different levels. It puts non-Muslims below Muslims. You have dhimmis. You have different treatment for people that leave the religion. In fact, they're considered to be, you have horrid treatment of LGBT. This is not coming from a merciful man, right? We're talking about things that don't even hurt people, like leaving the religion, being, you know, in having a different sexual orientation. None of these things actually are hurting anyone else, but somehow it's a big enough problem that it became like even death for some of these situations, like leaving Islam.
The Prophet ﷺ, وَكَانَ أَحْلَمُ النَّاسِ, he was the most gentle of people. Not just he was a gentle person, he was the most. That form, ahlam, the most gentle. He was the most gentle of people. MashaAllah. I'm translating this on the spot, so it might not be perfect, but just kind of roll with it. The English, I don't translate like entirely well. It was said to him,
Yes, we know. You can speak Arabic, you can read Arabic, we get it. Okay, let's get on with it.
O Messenger of Allah, do you not make dua against the mushrikeen? Every single sentence in this we need to ponder over because they're so important. Somebody came to Prophet ﷺ and they said to him, do you not make dua against the mushrikeen? Like a polytheist, idol worshippers, people who reject Islam. And he said, I've been sent as a mercy, not as a punishment. So even against his enemies, our Prophet ﷺ, he didn't make dua against them, he made dua for them. He was not here to punish us. He was here as a mercy. And that's so important, because what person do you know who never speaks bad about people, who doesn't want revenge or wish bad?
Okay, she got it so wrong here. And this book got it wrong, and she also got it wrong. Let's just look and see, right? It says right here in this hadith by Abu Dawood that talking about the witr prayer, which is like the one odd rakat you do at the end of the night when you finish your prayer, that the Prophet, right, in the last rakat of the noon, night, and dawn prayers, he would supplicate for the believers and curse the disbelievers, right? It says that right there. Like literally every night he would be doing this, okay? Then there's also this incident that happened where when they threw a bunch of stuff on him, according to her, he's this most gentle, merciful man that forgives people, whatever. He literally went and said, "Oh Allah, destroy the chiefs of Quraysh, destroy Abu Jahl, destroy Utbah, Shayba, Uqba, whatever," and on, right? And then they were all killed in the battle, okay, of Badr, right? And the bodies were thrown into the well, except for, and then they put a little dig about Umayya because he's a fat guy. Okay, I don't know how that was relevant, but anyways, like fat shaming back in the 7th century Hadith narrators. Man, Sahih al-Bukhari needs to be cancelled for his fat shaming. Never mind the fact that he has Hadith about killing ex-Muslims. It's like the guy was so fat, couldn't even throw him in the well. Like he didn't fit. We had to like take off his limbs or something. Oh my goodness. Okay, so and then this is an even more strange example, right? That there was a man eating in the presence of the Prophet, probably left-handed man, okay? And Muhammad's like, eat with your right hand. And the man's like, I can't do that. Like, he's probably left-handed. Okay, maybe he didn't know this. Muhammad didn't know about left-handed people. So the guy meaning the Prophet was like, may you not be able to do that. Like, he made dua against the man that was eating with his left hand. Probably a left-handed man. Wait, like shout out to the lefties out there, right? And then after that, he couldn't raise, according to the hadith, he couldn't raise his left hand to his mouth. Now the funny thing is, he couldn't raise his right hand to his mouth. Now the funny thing is, why would that man want to raise his right hand to his mouth when he was perfectly happy eating with his left hand? So the Prophet made dua for him to be in the same situation here that he was, meaning eating with his left hand. Status quo, life continues. The guy continues eating with his... What was the point of this dua? I mean, here you are, Aisha is saying, Miss Rosalie is saying that he was such a gentle man, he wouldn't make dua against his enemies, yet according to this hadith, He's making dua not just against, never mind his enemies, may they be killed or whatever. He's making dua in the middle of the night against cursing the disbelief. He's making dua against a guy who's eating with his left hand. Like, how much more petty can you get? Not only that, it's such a useless dua that he made that it's like it didn't achieve anything. He just continued eating with his left hand. It's so funny. And she's so wrong. She's so dead wrong on this. It's just
never speaks bad about people, who doesn't want revenge or wish badness on people.
Well, he did want revenge and he did wish badness on people. It literally says he cursed the disbelievers. But let's take a look at some of the revenge. We have a list of people that Muhammad basically unlifed, right? There's like a big list. A lot of these people were people that were poets. They're like poets that were making fun of him or whatever, and he just got mad and just wanted them gone, right? Like singing songs about the Prophet. Like, really? Like, you're a great man that you're gonna go and get people to go after these people for like singing songs about you? Like, you're that much of a great man that bothers you so much? I mean, come on. It's like truly pathetic. This is a pathetic, insecure man, not a great man. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a man that, like, when his wives wanted more money, God had to come down and save him in the Quran and threaten them that he would replace them with other wives. This is a man that when his people were staying at his house for too long, God had to come and kick them out of his house because he was getting annoyed. He wanted to go to bed or whatever, right? This is a high value man. Like, can't even speak up for himself. He needs to sock puppet Allah to come and like do like his dirty work for him. Really?
Do you know that's like that? I don't know anyone that's like that.
I don't know. Muhammad wasn't like that either. So I think you're right. I don't know anyone like that.
I mean, these qualities are absolutely incredible. And
I actually forgot there's even a verse example of him not just not forgiving people, not just punishing people. This one actually is so bad, this example, that it caused a bunch of people to leave Islam or to leave Sunnism and just become like a Quranist. This one story is so gruesome that people just couldn't believe that Muhammad would do such a thing. Like, it just seems so excessive. Even when I read this as a Sunni Muslim, I was like, dang, like he did this? And then I found out it's in the Quran. It talks about crucifixion and cutting off hands and the opposite hand and leg and all that. But like, this was like next level, like taking people so these people did something bad. They killed a bunch of companions, but his revenge, she talks about not getting revenge, was he like literally tortured them, right? Like, you can just read it yourself if you want. I'm not going to say it. It's bad. It's like really bad. This is what he did. This is no gentle man.
Even there was a time when a lot of the Hafiz of Quran, they were killed during battle. And the people that killed them, they mutilated them in such a horrible, horrific way. And even then, the Prophet, peace be upon him, he did not make dua against those people. He made dua for them to God.
So we're already seeing massive inconsistencies in what she's saying. When she's saying he didn't even make dua against people that mutilate the body. He literally himself like did what you just said while they were still alive, right? So I don't know what you're talking about here.
Guide them to give them goodness. What kind of heart? Like, that's a pure heart, mashallah. So Afannas, he was the most decent of people. Wa Askannas, he was the most generous of people. And he would not be asked of something except that he would give it. So pretty much saying that, like, every time anyone asked him for something, he gave it. Like, imagine living like that. Imagine every single homeless person who said, can I have some money? You gave it. Imagine everyone who asked for anything, you just gave it. Like, do you know anyone like that? Wala yabitu.
Okay, so this is a perfect point to stop and just look at what she just said. Does it even make any sense what she's saying? That whenever someone asked him something, like every time a homeless man would ask him for something, he would give it? What if that homeless man said, give me your wife? What if that homeless man said, give me all your money? You're just gonna be like, okay, the prophet's like, here you go. Like, what if the man said, like, make me the leader? No, this is like mythologizing him. This is making him to something he wasn't, right? In fact, I have an example where he did the exact opposite happen of what you just said. A man asked the prophet for something and he literally got mad at him. So according to this story, he gave a man he gave a man from the Banu Abdul So according to this story, there came a man to asking for some camels from the sadaqah, from the charity. So there was some charity money, and the Messenger of Allah was so angry that anger showed in his face. One way in which anger could be recognized in his face is that his eyes became red. So I don't know about you, but I'm thinking like of this meme, like when this is described, his eyes became red. Okay? Literally, this is the opposite of what she just said. Like his eyes are popping out of his head in anger because this guy asked for some camels from the charity money, right? So clearly, first of all, it's irrational to claim that he's just going to give everything that people ask him for. And second of all, he didn't do that. So wrong again.
وعنده دينار ولا درهم. Like he wouldn't go to sleep with a dinar or a dirham, saying like he literally wouldn't sleep at night until he had found somebody to give his spare money to. And then it goes on to say, if he did have money and he couldn't find someone to give it to and the night came, then he would not return home until he gave the money to someone who needed it. He would be out searching for somebody who needs the money more than him. And he was not rich, he was a poor man. He used to have marks on his back where he would sleep on.
Okay, before she gets into the examples of that, I want to like just cover the story. So she said he wouldn't go to bed until he gave away all his money. He used to give away his money every single day. And again, I'm going to show you, like, the funny thing is, there could have been like a made up story like this, but the story, she's so wrong again, or this book is so wrong, because it's not at all what she said. And she's saying he's poor. Okay, we'll get to that next. But like what she's saying here is that he gave away all his money, right? Okay, so let's take a look at this hadith that she's referring to, which I know exactly what she's talking about. This is the story she's talking about. And listen to what it is. It's not what she said. Narrated Abu Dhar, I was in the company of the Prophet and he saw the mountain of Uhud and he said, I would not like to have this mountain turned into gold for me unless nothing of it, not even a single dinar remains of it with me for more than 3 days. 3 days, not one night, okay? Except that I keep it to repay debts. And then he said, blah, 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 right? So this is what he's talking about, what she's talking about. She's talking about he's bragging. He's walking with this guy. He sees a mountain. He's like, yo, if I had all that gold, I would give it away in the sake of Allah because I'm a great man and that's what I do. I would want that mountain. I don't even want that mountain of gold. I don't even want it. I just want it so that I can give it in the cause of Allah. I wouldn't want to keep it for not 1 day, not even 3 days. Okay, maybe 2 days, but not 3 days. 3 days is a maximum, okay? I'll keep it in my house for maximum 3 days. After that, I gotta give it away because that's who I am. I'm the messenger, right? Like, he's literally humble bragging about how great a man he is that he wants to give away all of his money. And then he talks about how there's only a few people that do that. Like, come on. Like, this is the exact story she's referring to because she's talking about not a single dinar remains of it. There's no story that says he gave away the money. The story is that he's bragging about, like, I would love to have a mountain of gold so I could give it away. Like, that's the example.
Such horrific circumstances. He would have marks on him and the Sahaba would say to him, like, can we help you? I mean, there's a hadith from Aisha where she says that smoke wouldn't come from his wives' houses for months. So he wouldn't eat cooked food for months. This is a poor, in a worldly sense, in a dunya sense. If you met him today, you would be like, he's poor, I don't want anything to do with him. According to the world that we live in today, where we don't respect poor people, we look down on them, that's how he would be treated. And he himself would not come home. Sorry, I'm getting emotional because it's just his character is just so impeccable, and it's nothing like anyone who lives today or anything we've been told about how a good person is. He would not come home until he has given any of his leftover money, things, to people who need it more than him. He would search for it. We have people coming to us today asking for things and we don't give it. He would search for people who need things. And then the next bit I've chosen, the last bit, because I could go on forever about this topic. This is a little bit more complex to translate, but it translates to, like, he was more modest.
Okay, so let's stop there for a second and let's look and fact check. She said this is all about facts, right? So first thing she said was he was poor, he gave away all his wealth. We really discussed the whole giving away wealth thing. Like, he said he wanted to give away his wealth. Okay, but let's look at the poverty claim. So the claim is that one is he didn't eat cooked meat for, months, and the hadith is there for that. Okay, so this is a hadith that claims where, Aisha said to, oh, my nephew, we used to see the crescent, and basically, for those at that period of time, we survived on dates and water. Okay, so what she's saying is, and then they would get some milk or whatever. What she's saying is that they were like vegan for like a few months. Okay, they weren't eating meat. They weren't cooking. They were surviving on these. Sorry, milk isn't vegan. They were vegetarian. Okay, they were vegetarian for like a few months. People do this as a lifestyle now. They survive off like not eating cooked food. So what's the big deal, first of all? But okay. Second of all, the fact is this was likely at a period of time. The important thing to understand is when you look at hadith, this hadith is a point of time reference of what happened at a specific point in time. It doesn't mean it was always that case. What she's saying is that we used to, at this period of time, and again, I don't know how to place the timing of this hadith, but what I can show you is there was another hadith which I found, which refers to a similar situation where this was after the Battle of Khandaq. At the Battle of Khandaq, the trench, where the Muslims were starving, right? So this one, we know the timing because it clearly says this happened during Khandaq. So at this time, the Muslims, this was right after the Battle of Uhud, where they lost the battle and then they were going to be attacked, and the non-Muslims were like, let's finish them off. So they're like, one of the companions was like, let's dig a trench. I learned this war technique. It works really well and it can help us to defend ourselves. During this period of time where they were surrounded by the enemies, it's also known as Al-Ahzab, they had a really rough time because they had to dig this big trench. They had no food. And in fact, it was so bad that they didn't have any food, and they were like, reusing the water over and over again. And on top of that, they were starving, and they would go out and they would have like rocks tied to their stomachs. This was a situation during this period of time. There was also another period of time where the non-Muslims basically boycotted the tribe of Muhammad's tribe. They boycotted it because they were protecting Muhammad. And during that time, again, the whole tribe, including the non-Muslims, were starving. They were eating the bulk of trees and whatever. It says that. But let's go back to this example. So these are moment in time incidents, right? At this period of time, they were starving as well. And then what happened was, according to the story, now the story gets kind of funny. So she's bragging that they were, like they didn't used to eat cooked food, whatever, and it was so simple, and he was a poor man. Yes, he was a poor man because he was waging wars against other groups of people, and this was the situation at this time was they were losing, right? They lost Uhud, they lost that battle. Now this was like the time where they could have been completely annihilated. It was a really difficult time for them. And during this time, just as an aside, it's kind of a funny point. One of the companions decided to invite all the Muslims over to his house, right? And so what happened was, he said, "O Messenger of Allah, I have some food, and will you come along with one or two companions?" Right? So when all of these people started coming to his house, what happened was his wife said, it will be a matter of disgrace for you. So she's mad because there wasn't enough food, right? And then what happened was when the Prophet came, he's like, look, I'm gonna spit in it. So he spit in the food, and he prayed on it or whatever. And after he spit in the food, all of the 1,000 guests ate from the spittle mixed bread. So magically, the magic spit of the Prophet was enough to feed 1,000 plus people. The food kept going on and coming and coming and coming. They all ate the fill. So on one hand, they're like complaining because they're starving and there's rocks. On the other hand, the same hadith claims that magic spit bread fed over the 1,000 people. Now, I don't know about you. I don't know if I'd want to eat magic spit bread. It kind of like, I think it would upset my stomach. But regardless, yes. So on one hand, Aisha's saying he was starving, he was poor. On the other hand, they're all eating until they're all full. Their tummies are nice and full from magic spit bread. So I don't know. I don't know which version of this hadith to take. The other thing to think about when she's talking about, she's bragging how he never ate cooked food or whatever, like he didn't eat, like he's eating dates or whatever and milk. Many Muslims, even today, and non-Muslims, they don't even get like meat until the Qurbani, like the Eid. So for the whole year, we have Muslims, I'm using an example of Muslims because it's more obvious as a counter example. They don't even eat meat the whole year, right? And that's one of the selling points of the Eid. Oh, like we're going to give this meat to poor people. If these Muslims today are not eating meat the whole year, like what's the big deal that he didn't eat meat for a couple of months, right? At that point in time. And obviously, it's very obvious to me that when he conquered Makkah and he had wealth, he wasn't living like this anymore, right? You'd have to show me that he continued to live like this and was starving and tying rocks to his stomach even when they had wealth. You really believe that? I don't believe it.
This is a little bit more complex to translate, but it translates to like he was more modest than a virgin in her lying space. So it's kind of like just saying like he was a very modest person.
I don't know what the obsession was back then with virgins. They always go on about virgins, but like I'm pretty sure a lot of those virgins that you're claiming are modest are like they just can't wait like to get it on. Okay, like let's be real. These women, I'm sure they're like excited about this too. It's not like, oh, they're so modest. No. So that's the first thing. Second of all, he was modest. This man that like eyed women and like he eyed his adopted son's wife Zainab. He basically lusted for her and made Zayd divorce her so he could marry her. That, as Yasir Qadi said, was one of the most controversial events in the Seerah, right? Because this is like really troubling. Like it's like he's taking away one of his companions' wives for himself. It's just a weird situation, right? So that's one example. There's other examples as well I have. So now let's look at the story of Juwayriyah. In this case, right, she was a very beautiful woman, most attractive to the eye. She came to the Messenger of Allah asking him for the purchase of her freedom, right? Listen to what Aisha says. When she was standing at the door, I looked at her with disapproval. I realized that the Messenger of Allah would look at her in the same way that I had looked, right? Meaning, she was attractive, right? And he wanted her. Zainab was one example. And here's another one where he bought Safiya, who was again an attractive woman, for 7 slaves. He had 7 slaves. He traded it for her. This is what you call a modest man?
He did not fix his eyes on the face of anyone. Like he did not stare at people. He did.
Yeah, except for attractive women that he wanted to marry, including his, basically his son's wife.
Not fixate over their beauty or even their ugliness. He wouldn't stare at people. He was the most humble. He would prepare his own shoes. He would prepare his own clothes. And he would help with the housework. Something that we're not, this is a very controversial subject, so I'm not going to go into it. I personally am not going to sit here and say that men have to help with housework. That's not part of my personality to comment on these kind of things.
That's a kind of weird comment. She's not even confident enough as a Muslim woman to say that men have to help with the housework. She's scared of saying that. Imagine like her situation as a Muslim woman. She doesn't even want to utter the words men should help her with the housework because that's controversial. And they say women are free in Islam. Like, this is like insanity. But let's talk about what she just said, because it's actually, again, pretty funny, right? So I was discussing this with my girlfriend, and we went over these hadith, and she pointed out some actually really funny stuff about these hadith. So what she's saying is he helped out with the housework. Okay, that's the claim, right? What's the evidence, right? And she said he served himself. Okay, so we're going to show you just how low the bar is right now. The bar is so low that when basically Aisha was asked what did the Prophet do in his house, she's like, he mended his sandals and he worked as any man works in the house. Basically, yeah, he did what any man does, meaning probably put his legs up and sat back like that. Like, imagine you're the best man that ever lived. Okay, let's look at a couple more. There's actually more. Another hadith, similar one, right? Said, what did he do in the house? Yeah, he did what any of you would do in his house. He mended sandals and patched garments and sewed. He fixed his clothes, his own clothes. He fixed his own clothes. Okay, let's look at one more, right? In this one, it's called, what does a man do in his house? Aisha said he was a man like other men. He removed fleas from his garment and milked his sheep. So in every single one of these, right? Here's yet one more. He was a normal human being. He used to examine his clothes for lice, milk his sheep, and serve himself. And then in this hadith, it actually says, this is the one I was referring to earlier, but it says he had 7 slaves which he traded for Safiya. Do you really think if he had 7 slaves, he was doing a lot around the house? 7 slaves. 7. This is like, he had at least 7. He must have had more than that if he gave 7 away in order for some booty, right? But like, he's like, imagine you're the best man that ever lived, according to Muslims, and your wife asks what kind of man you were. And you're like, yeah, he's like any other man. Like, yeah, he stitched his clothes. He fixed his own shoes. He served himself. What about helped with, helped me? What about took care of me, brought me food, right? Massaged my feet. Like, what is it? Like, okay, there's a whole, like, I'm not even going to get into the whole fondling thighs thing. That's like, oh my God, I don't even want to go there, right? Like, that was for himself. That wasn't even for his, like, preteen wife. That was for himself. But anyways, this is what we have as supposed best man. Served himself, right? This is like, the bar is so low that, like, getting his own stuff, that's considered like a high standard. Like, that's like a good man. This is all you can find. If you look and you search for what did the Prophet do around the house, it's like hadith after hadith. Like, it's like they just wanted to throw him a bone, and they're like, in one of these hadith, they're like, he worked in the house. What did he do in the house? He took care of his own stuff, meaning like he sewed his own shirt or whatever. Like, that's the like extent of what he did around the house. If that's what you consider best man, that's actually funny.
What the Prophet ﷺ used to do, and it's honourable. He was just a kind person. It's not about gender wars. It's just about being kind and respectful, and whether you're a man or woman, just being.
He's so kind. He took care of his own shoes. Okay, all right. If you say so, that's what you call kindness, is taking care of your own stuff. Okay, so be it. If that's kind to you. Picking the lice and the fleas out of your clothes, that's kind to the fleas. It's not kind to the fleas. Those poor fleas, they just want to have some food off you. That's not kind to the fleas, is it?
Kind to people around you and helping. He would cut up meat with his wives. He would respond to the invitation of a free person or a slave. He would accept gifts even if they were small. He would use it and eat from it.
So he's such a great guy that he accepts gifts. Hey, I accept gifts too. If you want to join my Patreon, please join. I appreciate the support. But he was such a great guy. I'm a great guy too. I also accept gifts, right? That's what she's saying. Okay. If that's what you consider a great guy, accepts gifts. I think there's a lot of great men out there and women.
But he wouldn't eat from sadaqah. slaves and poor people would ask him to follow them, and
he accepted gifts of slaves, like living beings that he was gifted, such as Maria al-Kutubiyya, who he actually slept with and had a baby with, which was Ibrahim. He used her for his own pleasure. And this was a gift, one of the gifts. So he accepted gifts. How is that making him a good man? It's bizarre that you can actually from one side of your mouth, you can say these things and you can just pretend like none of these things exist. You just pretend that he's such a great guy, but like you don't even look at the things he did, right? How is this a high value man? How is this a good thing at all that you are using women for your own sexual satisfaction that are your slaves, your property, right? If you're a Muslim and you're hearing this, you might feel uncomfortable. Why am I bringing up all these things? But this is a part of Islam that you have to look at as well. You can't just look at the nice things and say, oh, he's so great or whatever. Look at the bad side too, right? Like the whole thing has to be looked at fairly in order to judge what type of person he is. Just like I said earlier, you can't just cherry pick and invent a Muhammad. You have to look at who he actually was according to the same sources you're using, right? Maybe not all these things are true. Obviously, I don't believe some of these things about like he fed 1,000 people with his magic spit. No, I don't believe that. At the same time, if you want to accept these sources, you got to accept all of them. Like you can't just pick and choose and make up your own Muhammad. That basically is what most cultural Muslims believe in today. They believe in a Muhammad that's cherry picked and that's superficial. It's not a complete picture at all.
He would follow them wherever they called him, and he would love the poor, and he would make them sit with him and eat with him. Like he would sit and eat with the poor, and he would call them over to come and sit and eat with him. Sorry, as you can tell, I'm like insanely passionate about this subject, but I just think it's so important because especially for the younger generation, we're growing up believing that you have to be this certain way. And I personally, I know a few people.
So she's basically saying we're being taught you have to grow up a certain way, but that's exactly what Muslims are doing when they're portraying all of these things about Muhammad. They're saying you have to be a certain way. Yes, you're trying to say the same thing. You have to be a certain way like this man. And you're trying to say that he's such a great man when he actually wasn't a great man at all, right? And if you're so passionate and committed to this topic, Aisha, how is it that you missed all this? Like every single point you made was contradicted by other points. These aren't even good points. You have to come up with points that are realistically actually, but the problem is you probably can't because every single good thing he did an even verse thing. So you're stuck, right? That's the problem with all of these Muslims. They're stuck with this man that's the best man, but he's actually a terrible man. So what can they do except hide, cherry pick, make up stuff? That's unfortunately the situation here. Anyways, she's gonna go on now about people she knows that are like this guy or whatever. Thanks for watching. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone. If you like this video, do consider joining my Patreon. I appreciate all of the support. And Happy New Year to all of you. Looking forward to 2024. This is your friendly ex-Muslim signing out.